Thank you both so much for coming on.
Yeah.
I wanted to start with Thiz first, if you don't
Oh
mind.
shit.
The first thing I wanted,
It's like,
huh?
oh snap. Okay.
Well, because you've already been on the show before for Dave.
Oh,
I
okay,
wanted,
okay. Got you, got you.
so I know we're going to talk about how you both kind of have different trading styles and what you both look for. So, starting with this, do you have a preference for taking long or short positions?
I'll be honest, it just depends on the market. This kind of last 3 months, I've definitely been pretty short bias. It just seems like we've had a lot more follow through on the backside as far as patterns, and the right pullbacks working and stuff like that. Like pretty much if you were to just flip the chart, all the patterns you see on the front side that people would play long, they're there short too, and I've just seen a lot more follow through the last few months with those on the backside. So I have been shorting a lot more than long. We're starting to see this kind of. I feel like we're in this intermission stage where we're seeing a lot of chop, like a lot of sideways action on a lot of names, and um,
Mm-hmm.
starting to see a lot of these things that I would fade pretty much all day, not fade all day, and they'll kind of like bounce and then move sideways, or even on the long side, you'll get that nice move, and then it'll come down and then move sideways the rest of the day. So we're getting nice
Yeah.
moves, but it's really like a kind of take your money thing. But I feel like we are probably starting to transition into a market where I will flip to a long bias over a short bias. Will I still short plays? Of course, but it'll be probably on smaller size. I'll probably take the bigger size on a long side of the trade, and I mean I'm flexible, right? I'm a flexible trader. I try and follow the edge. I was long on NXTD. They dropped their RS approvals, and now I'm short. I'm still short right now. So it kind of just depends on what's
And
going
it's
on.
important to be able to do both,
I
right? When you're to make money in any kind of market
Yeah, I
situation.
agree, especially if you're looking at it from like I don't know, I want to make money every day, and a lot of the things that people are playing don't show up every day. Uh, and I'll be honest, I'm not the kind of person that just wants to sit here and not make money. Like I want to be able to make some money. So if that has to be on the short side, well, then I'll make it on the short side. There's like a huge stigma around like people who short stocks. I feel like in this community that we're a part of, but it's
Mm-hmm.
just part of the game. Like if there weren't people shorting, we wouldn't even have a lot of the moves that we see when you're going long, right? A lot of those moves are fueled by AHL to AHL is a good example today. A lot of these moves are fueled by shorts that just got bent. I was one of them
Mm-hmm.
on AHL today. I got bent on AHL. I'll be honest with you guys. So it's important to have both of these sides in the market. You know what I mean? But I'm flexible right
Absolutely.
now. I feel I'd venture to say I'm doing both pretty evenly. You know, but a lot of my bigger losses this, past month or so have been on the short side. So what does that tell me? You know what I mean? It tells me, hey, it might be a good idea to start thinking about taking a little less size on the shorts and starting to go long. For me, I just trust the numbers. I like to trust the statistics. So if the numbers are telling me, hey, you're losing a little more money, the consistency rate's going down on the short side and going up on the long side, well, it's pretty simple for me as far as what I need to do. You know what I mean? Um,
Yeah,
but there are some
absolutely.
no-brainers. Everybody knew that if NXTD approved the reverse split, it probably wasn't going to be good as far as for the stock price. So that was a no-brainer short. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
NXTP, they just had some, I don't know, some company tweet. I'm just using it as an example. I didn't actually catch this, but some of these are just no-brainer longs if you can get in time. NXTP was nice enough to give us a nice pullback for me to get in. Um, yeah, I mean that's what I'd say. I have a lot of shorting was how do I word this? I tell people, you want to be a master of something. You don't want to be like a jack of all trades when you start trading. You want to master something
Mm-hmm.
first, and then you want to add tools to the kit, right? But you have to become a master of something
Of
first.
course.
Because if you're just a jack of all trades and you're not really a master at anything, you know, yeah, you might be making money, but you're not like living up to your full kind of potential, in my opinion, right? So I started long. And the whole shorting deal was something that I really started diving into probably the end of May, I want to say. So I have a lot of
Mm-hmm.
trades that I have saved over the last couple months of, shorts. I don't save too many of my longs anymore. If they look really pretty, I do save some. But my long setups are pretty much always very similar. You know, I look for, you know, those nice momentum scalps off of, you know, like a 1 minute flag, 5 minute flag. If it's a backside trade, I make
Mm-hmm.
sure it's came down and rested quite a bit, and then I'll usually go off, you know, some kind of pivot to the left.
And Dave, when you're going long, you like to trade a lot of bottom bounces too, right? Because you do more
Yeah,
swing trading than day trading.
yeah. So I would like to say that I'm not really. So I know some other guys like Zonic. They play the harder bounce. Like I like finding a bounce that is curled or shows a previous spot where we should be curling. I don't like playing
Mm-hmm.
all time lows because like one like RGS. If you guys notice, every week there's a new bottom, but then the next week there's a new bottom. So I don't like playing stuff that we don't see a bottom in previous times. I like finding a bottom. My favorite ones are where gaps are, gap levels. I like playing supports off of gap levels and or resistances, and I like to see that curl and then move on up, and then hopefully start a trend and work on that trend.
So it's safer just to wait for that confirmation that the bottom is there.
Exactly. So one swing I recently played, and I actually sold a little bit early.
Quick, I just wanted to point out that everything I say is going to be related to day trading. I don't swing at all.
Yeah,
If I do swing, it's always
Okay.
lottos, and it's usually just off of like, hey, my homies are in it, so you know, fuck it, I'll take some. I'm a momentum trader, or you know, I'm a day trader. That's it. I rarely swing. If I do
Mm-hmm.
swing, it'd be kind of in this case scenario where it's like, hey, Bitcoin's crazy right now. I might join some Bitcoin names in this short-term trend that we have going on. You know, so I just want to point that out because I don't want people to hear and be like, you know, thinking I'm
yeah,
talking about anything related to swinging. I'll leave that to Bull. I'm
yeah. And
strictly
I'm
day
a
trader.
and I'm a short-term swing trader for you guys that didn't know. I think everybody knows that. 1 to 5 days. Usually not even close to 5 days. It's usually 1 to 3 days. Hopefully, I get that moving that first day, and I'm out.
There you go.
I'm not really looking for
Mm-hmm.
crazy gains. You know what I mean? Yeah. So if we zoom in,
Mm-hmm.
let me get some dates for you. That might be a little bit easier. So I started swinging on it was October 8th. I started swinging off that hammer candle. So we see the inverse candle on October 6th, 2 days before that,
Mm-hmm.
right off of the trend line of the bigger picture on the daily. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so when we came back down on October 8th, I was eyeing this one from that inverted hammer, and I wanted to see it hold and build a new trend and show some strength. So October 8th, so if you see there's a gap level around there to the left, probably about a week
Mm-hmm.
ago. I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
see that level hold as a support and hammer off of it with
Mm-hmm.
strength. So I seen that. I went long. Carbon capture, lithium, all that's high, almost at all time highs. Just because CEI went. I mean, I think that was the day that CEI actually started going down. Just because that happened, everybody thought of carbon capture CEI because that was the trend right there. But just because CEI went down doesn't mean the whole carbon capture thing is done. That's still we're
Mm-hmm.
still in the trend. So I'm thinking carbon capture SLI. They just came out. They just announced a project about carbon capture. So I'm like, this is the trend. So I caught in on the trend. I caught the support. And I wrote it up and I sold a little bit early, but it's moving really nicely. We got about seven ads, and I sold around nines towards all time highs, and now we hit
Mm-hmm.
11 today. And I also want to bring up that this chart was so similar to AEHR. If you guys remember that one last week, I swung that as well. Literally almost the same exact chart.
Mm-hmm.
And just finding trend, what's hot. Semiconductors are still a problem. I mean, we seen the Ford press release yesterday. Semiconductors are still a problem, and got a really nice move out of that. So that's really what I'm looking for. That swing wasn't long. You just catch the right
Mm-hmm.
bottoms, follow the trend, and that was literally less than a week, maybe even 3 days. I think that where I got those moves. So those are the kind of plays I like to play. I like playing higher low setups or a curl off the bottom.
Mm-hmm. And for you, Thiz, what are the three top things you look for when considering a short trade for a day trade? Do you check the morning runners first? What are you looking
Um,
for?
I mean, typically I use day one runners alone.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I like to see the names that people forget about. So an example today would be NRXP. You know, not the best example, But like the names where it's like, okay, maybe it's day 2, day 3, and people are starting to forget about the name. Uh, and
Mhm.
it helps if there's like a huge focus also that day. So let's say hypothetically it was like the day that CEI was all, getting crazy or something, and people started forgetting about these other names that gapped up or something like that. I like the names that are no longer
Mhm.
shiny, right? They're just a lot easier to trade. They act a
Mhm.
lot better on the backside. I do like the social media sentiment names as well. Uh, Depends on,
Mhm.
how many people are there, who's all there. But with those, I really like to see just that nice extension, that nice exhaust move. And once I see that kind of domino effect start happening, that's when I look to get in short on those. For the most part, though, that's pretty much what I like to stick to. If we have something like, Bitcoin starts, I don't know, let's say somebody just says something crazy, like some real important person out there is like, sucks.
Elon
Yeah,
Musk.
that's it. Bitcoin's trash, and then Bitcoin starts coming down. Like, I'll go for Mara, I'll go for BTBT if it's not already. BTBT's had a lot of relative weakness lately, I feel like, but I'll go for BTBT. I may go
Mhm.
for any. You know what I mean? Like the nice sympathy shorts.
Mhm.
I like that too. So whenever CEI halted down and was going crazy off of the short report day one, DATS was a
Mhm.
decent short that day as well because it was kind of in that Zach Morris index. And people were just getting scared, so they were just covering. Or excuse me, selling their position.
Mhm.
Those are literally all I stick to. Those are the only plays I'll short. On a long side, I'm a little more versatile. Like there's a lot of different things I'll play long, but it's important to understand that like I am a scalper on the long side. I don't know why I feel a lot more
Mhm.
comfortable on the short side to hold my positions for a greater amount
Mhm.
of time, and I'll position trade them more than I would a long trade. So on the long side, it's strictly momentum. If I see a name that is having a nice leg up on some kind of catalyst, some kind of news, I will consider social media a catalyst if the volume is there. I like to, look for the first
Mhm.
1, 2 healthy pullbacks, and I scalp them. I play. That's how I play it. If I see a name that just went absolutely bonkers and it's pulling back, and the pullback is, relatively low volume, and it's coming into, I don't know, the previous highs, or even, pre-market highs or something like that, I may look for trades off of that too. But I mean, that's pretty much it. I don't buy breakouts, I buy pullbacks. Auction's a good example yesterday where, auction had a nice daily breakout. Um, you know,
Which one was it?
OCGN had a nice daily breakout
Oh,
over
see.
these
Okay.
like 939, 947 levels. And if you look after it
Mhm.
broke out of that, it pulled back on pretty light volume. This is 9:30 my time, so I think that's 10:30 yours. And you can see it did come back
Mhm.
below VWAP a bit, and then it came back up. It confirmed over VWAP, and then had a nice downtrend break and just ran all the way to 1060s. Like those, I like these setups a lot. If I was going to be sizing it into anything, it's definitely these setups. If you look at the 5 minute, look at how low the volume was on this play compared to so many, you'll see a lot of pullbacks. They have a lot more volume on the backside. The fact that this was a low volume
Mhm.
pullback, like this, that's just one sign that, hey, this is a healthy pullback. Plus we have the confluence of, hey, it's at VWAP. Hey, it's at the daily breakout level. Hey, it's also at what I think was not just it wasn't yesterday's high, it was the day before, and that pre-market high the day before. Like this is a very significant level, right? So we're pulling back into a
Mhm.
level that is extremely significant on low volume. That's a very good
Mhm.
sign. And this is the type of play that I would look to take some size on. You know what I mean? Um, and then after we have that downturn break and have that move, let's say that maybe I
Mhm.
wasn't in the play already. Well, then we have these beautiful 1 minute pullbacks, low volume. If you have your EMAs on your charts, they're kind of pulling back to the 20. I don't mind 820. I'm just looking for that low volume pullback. Um, and
Mhm.
for me, I don't usually wait for it to break out of the flags. Like I kind of accumulate the dip, and if it fails, I'll just cut it. Um,
Mhm.
and that's how I like to play. Like that first 1, 2 pullback we got on that new trend, I would have played. But because we already knew there was momentum, we had that nice leg up out of the open, and then like I just explained, that very healthy pullback to a very key level. That is where I would. That is one of my favorite long setups to size into right there. Aside from that, I like sympathy plays. We haven't really been in a market where we've had a whole lot of that, but that's where I'd say I excel. When we get these nice sector rotations, sympathy plays. For anybody that doesn't know what sympathy plays are, I'm talking about like if the real basic one is if memes start going and AMC starts going crazy. You have GME, BB. If GME goes, you have costs. You know what I mean? If you're trying to EDUs
Mm-hmm.
go, let's say EIQ is going crazy, you have WAFU, CLU, AMBO, FEDU, TEDU, REDU, EDD. There's so many
Yeah.
and so when you're in a super hot market, a lot of these, I call them secondary names, get hit really fast. So me, I like to just get in before everybody and kind of just chill. Once, there's so many chat rooms and like there really is there's not just Atlas, Sapphire, Real, like there's so many out there we don't even know about. They eventually
Yeah.
circle into these names and I just get out on the pops, you know what I mean? And ride lottos. Like I just
Mm-hmm.
scale out and ride the lottos. It's not really been the market for sympathies lately. We have had a few themes in the past, like software app back in what I think was May and June. Um, but that's me on the long side. Just a I'm a big scalper on the long side. I don't know why I feel so much more comfortable holding the shorts. Like I've been in NXTD for almost an hour short now. I'm just now starting to cover some more
Mm-hmm.
here, like as we speak.
Do you think a little part of it is that, because I know when I'm trading long, especially with day trading, I'm I know that shorts with size are
Mhm.
waiting to knock it down. And I feel like there can be a lot of fear on the long side with retail traders. Once they start seeing something getting knocked down, there will be a lot of panic selling. So you can get those rug pulls a lot quicker.
Yeah, I,
And I
I
feel like with longs, you can kind of see the momentum building.
Yeah, I see where you're going. I definitely think that, if we were back in a market like last winter, you know what I mean, going into Q1 of
Mm-hmm.
2021, I'd definitely a lot more inclined to hold size, scale out a little slower, you know what I mean? I definitely think that plays into
Yeah.
it, right? Because, a lot of people know we've been seeing so many of these just nasty knives, you know what I mean? Where you'll be green and then, oh shit, now you're red. And so it kind of
Yeah.
causes this chain reaction of people wanting to scale out at high a day, and so I, I agree with you in that sense. You know what I mean? As far as like
Mm-hmm.
thinking shorts are just gonna smack something down, I don't know if I would really word it like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, they're waiting at
At certain
certain
levels, right, 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 right.
levels, is what I mean.
You're
Yeah.
correct. I agree
Mm-hmm.
with you, and so and like I said, I feel like we've had a lot more follow through on the short side to where I don't know. I might not feel that comfortable 2 months from now, holding a short like I am.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we'll see. I'm just
Yeah.
adjusting to the environment continuously. I mean, you have to when you're trading. There's a lot of people that I knew that were great traders in February that didn't do very good afterwards. Like I think the turning point was March, April. Like going into
Mm-hmm.
March, things started getting a little choppier. Then April was terrible for me anyway. For a lot of other people I know, uh, there was some big adjustments that had to be made, and so
Mm-hmm. And something I wanted to point out that both of you guys kind of touched on, even though you do day trading and scalping, and Dave, you do more of the short term swing trades, you guys are both looking for these key levels to
right.
hold. So you're kind of looking for the pullback to, and Dave, are you looking for a pullback to that level too, or are you just looking for it to break above and then pull back? Kind of, can you walk us
So
through your process of that?
yeah, so actually it happened today on
Mm-hmm.
SDPI. So I actually just got back in for an overnight, possibly. But
Mm-hmm.
anyway, today I seen this daily chart and I think it's setting up pretty well. I think that we can get a move overnight. But anyway, so I did grab as we were holding. So I wanted to see if you look at the daily, you see that bottom at around 1.2. I mean, it's a clear
I
bottom.
like that actually.
So I wanted to
Oh,
see
right
that.
here. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I wanted to see that hold this morning, and if you look at the opening candle, we did hold that, and so I went long. So when I see that key level hold, I go long. So I went long,
Mm-hmm.
and sure enough, we got about a 10% move from there. I'm hoping for this to be a short term swing, so I obviously sold that pop. I seen a big level at 1.5, so I scaled all mine at the top. but I
Mhm.
just actually re-entered because although I wanted to see 1.38 hold, um I'm really not as like I'm not really upset if it wasn't to hold, just because if you look in the daily, we still have that inverted hammer off of the 20 SMA and off of that key level with a lot more volume than we've had the past week. So,
Mhm.
that's, to me, that's showing a lot of strength. So yeah, so if we just hold that key level of 1.2, this is bullish to me. No matter how this candle closes, it can close below 1.3. Um, as long as it holds that 1.2 level and we have an inverted hammer off of it, that on higher volume than lately, that's bullish to me. And I
Mhm.
think that we can probably see a move. Besides that, on the hourlies, it looks pretty good. But yeah, so I'm not really. I wanted to swing this overnight, and I will from here. But when I get that move, if I get a 10 to 12% move just in an hour, I'm gonna obviously take it. But
Of
yeah, just
course.
seeing and how I add pullbacks, holding key levels. So say we were to break out of the 1.4 range, right? And we come back and we start seeing hammers and volume slowly building along that 1.4 range. I'll start adding bat starters. I won't add full position. Start
Mhm.
adding bat starters and then go on from there.
And let me ask you both a question. Do you ever look at a chart and you can, before you do your in-depth analysis, do you kind of can you kind of see the direction it's going to
Yeah,
go? Like, do
100%.
you think, yeah, it's going to go up, it's going to go down? You kind of get that instinctual feeling?
Yeah, I took a short on NRXB yesterday, pre-market.
Mm-hmm.
Was there a level I really shorted off of? Not exactly. We had this kind of upper trend line that I shorted off of, but it was like you could just tell. I mean, this thing exhausted out in the morning and was just feeling super weak. Did it come back in the day and swipe me out? It did, but and that kind of falls into what I was talking about. Is like they just aren't fading as much as I would have liked. Was it a great trade though in
Mm-hmm.
pre-market? It definitely was. And it's just one of those things where I just looked at it, and I could just feel, like, yeah, I just feel the weakness. Looking at the tape, looking at how this thing is trading, I could just feel it. You look at the chart, you can see, hey, this thing's struggling with VWAP. It does not want to get over VWAP. It's steady downtrend. Like every pop is getting hit very hard. Um, you start. I mean, I use the daily a lot too. It sounds like
Mm-hmm.
Dav does as well. I'm a huge advocate of it.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Yeah.
if anybody should be doing anything, it's definitely using their higher time frames. And so when I seen this name make this big move, and on the daily, every move gets just absolutely destroyed, and it gives back. That's also a big sign for me. Like, hey, this thing is on day 2 now. It's moved up big, not as big as a lot of the pops we've seen on the daily, and now it's starting to act weak.
Mm-hmm.
So in my head, I was like, okay, we're seeing the weakness. The daily, the personality of the stock is, that he likes to get back gains. A lot of these things you can kind of put together and get that overall image without any kind of level. You know what I mean? And at that point, I
Mm-hmm.
still, if I'm getting short, I'll still wait for some kind of pop. If I'm getting long, I'll still wait for some kind of dip and go from there.
Can
A
you
good
both see my
example.
screen here?
Yeah.
Okay. I wanted to ask you about the question. We can see obviously where it is now, but just looking at like this section of the chart, would you say that it's ready for a reversal, or does it look like the downtrend is going to continue to you? We'll start with
See,
Dav.
yeah, see, to me, this is so as far as I can see in this section, this is
Uh
bearish as
huh.
all can be to me. Like I
Uh
said
huh.
before, I want to see a past point that we could start to reverse off of. And from this
There
time frame,
isn't.
I don't see
There's no
anything,
level.
Right. The only
Yeah.
level would have been where those hammers were. Looks like October 8th, I think that
Yeah.
is.
If
Yeah,
Right
that
around
if I
here.
would have watched that hold, then I would have been a little bit more bullish. But we
Uh
see
huh.
that fall down below that on a pretty ugly red candle. So this is as bearish as can be to me.
Mm-hmm. And so it's important to make sure to check the entire history of it, because after that, like you were saying, is check all the past levels, and
Yeah.
surprisingly it did make a new bottom and start to climb, but didn't get too far before falling back down.
Right.
Yeah, I agree with what
So
Dav
how far
said.
back do you guys usually go when checking the daily chart?
I mean, I go back. So it's mine set to 5 years, right? Will I
Mm-hmm.
occasionally look at the weekly? It depends on what's going on. Like I said, I don't swing a lot. If I did, I'd probably look farther back. For me, it's like if I'm day trading, I don't really need to see what's below, but I need to see what's above. So it's like if we start cracking on the levels that I see on the daily, you know what I mean? I might look
Mm-hmm.
farther. I might look at the weekly, but I always peek at the weekly just to make sure there's not some crazy major level that I'm not missing. I like to look at the 4 hour too, just to make sure I'm getting those post and pre-market hour levels that aren't on the daily. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I would say so. Like, I just went on my phone and just did like my usual, like, when I first look at a chart, what do I do on a daily? And I would say I usually go back probably about a year and a half. That's usually what I'm
Mm-hmm.
looking at. I mean, do I look more sometimes? Yes, but like my usual stance, so I just went on my phone, picked a random chart, and I just like went on a daily chart and see what I could see. I'm usually going back about a year and a half, seeing what's relative, kind of still in the trend. Kind of a year and a half is not too far away, whereas I feel like the
Right.
5 years
right.
or 10 years is obviously very far away.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But then when we
What's
start getting
your
towards
favorite? Go ahead.
wait, what's when we start getting towards like all-time highs and all, then I'll start looking back further and further and further until
Yeah.
until I actually see some action.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
that's
agree.
where I'm looking.
I agree. And there's even cases where
Yeah.
like if we have a runner that's a multi-day name, CI, good example. Like I'll just flip to a 15 or a 30 and start looking at the levels that we have that are really. I try and stick to pivots. I feel like they hold more weight.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll really pay attention to those levels too. And if we and when we start cracking those levels, we'll start looking more into dailies. Like any, great breakout of some daily levels at what looks like 706, 750s, stuff
Yeah.
like that. But one there, I
Mm-hmm.
like to look at the intraday levels or the past few sessions levels too on the 15 and a 30 if we're just kind of chopping around in there. Or on CEI, for instance, it was like, we started halting down like crazy. And in my head, I was like, all right, shorts are going to cover at some point and cause a bounce. Like, what is going to be a
Mm-hmm.
good level for us to go off of? You know what I mean? And so at
Right.
that point, that's when I'll flip to the 15 to 30 minute and look at what was recent. What recent price action do we have going on? What recent significant levels do we have? And I'll start looking for what I call a catcher's mitt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it kind of bounced from this level we can see here back from before the halt
Mm.
down. It kind of halted right to this previous resistance point right here.
Yeah. CEI was fun.
If you
It
can
was,
see
it was a
that.
fun name.
And if you look, that resistance point is
Mm-hmm.
what I was talking about, the gap levels. I play it
Yep.
very heavy off of them, and you can see the past resistance from what's that Friday, and then
Mm-hmm.
look where it incorporates to that Tuesday is where that gap
Mm-hmm.
level was, and then
Mm-hmm.
sort of works again after. So I like using them gap levels a lot. Like I use them
Very,
a lot.
very, very a lot.
Yeah,
Very a
very a
lot.
I
lot.
feel you, man. That's big true.
And what
So
if you had to pick a time frame that you prefer to trade off of for intraday, what would your favorite time frame chart to base your setups off of be?
I think you should have
you
multiple on one screen. I think you should have multiple. I think a lot of people are gonna say one. I mean, I make sure that I have my 1 and my 5 minute right next to each other though. It's really easy to get faked out on the one. I like
Yeah.
to see what's going on in real time. But I like to know, what a bigger picture is. I think, like I said earlier, don't be a tunnel trader. That's me. 1, 5,
Mm-hmm.
and the daily are my bread and butter.
And how
so
about you, Dave?
I live and stand by the 3 minute.
Oh
3 minute
shit.
and a
Really?
five
Okay.
minute.
Okay.
Yeah. The 3 minute and a 5 minute. The 1 minute I use to base my
Mhm.
entries like to an exact T, but I'm mainly only ever watching the 3 minute and I'll peek at the 5 minute. And also Ariel has taught me about the 15 minute. So I've been trying to work on the 15 minute a lot more and that's really helpful as well. But the 3 minute is just my bread and butter,
I, f-
as Thiz
I,
would say.
yeah, I fuck with that guy, man. I like him a lot.
Yeah, he's a really good trader.
He's a good dude.
Well, thank you both so much for coming on and talking with me today. I know we're in the middle of the trading day, so I'll let you guys go get back to it, especially that
Yeah.
it's Friday. I appreciate it and offering both of your perspective because it's important
Yeah, dude.
that
My
everyone
pleasure.
learns at some point to
Yeah.
trade both sides because you can make
Totally.
money either way. That's what we're here for.
Yep. Totally.
Yeah, no, we're making money. Well,
You guys have a
Thiz.
great day.
You too.
All right, later.
See ya.
Thank you both.
Bye.
Bye. Want more Trader Babes? Subscribe now and connect with us on social media for exclusive content and access you won't find anywhere else. And we'll see you right here on the next unforgettable episode of Trader Babes.